Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you for allowing us to gather here tonight as a community. We pray that you watch over our community of Kirtland, keep us all safe, keep our schools safe, keep our departments safe, and hopefully we honor you here tonight. In Jesus' name. Hopefully. Some people won't. I see the
Okay, roll call. Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Hamer.
Here.
Mr. Scholes.
Here.
Mr. Smolik.
Here.
Ms. Simons.
Here.
Mr. Ziegler.
Here.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Here.
Ms. Grazia.
Here.
Okay, on to the reading and approval of the minutes of the September 4th, 2024 work session. Looking for a motion.
Motion.
A second?
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Sue with a second. Thank you. Any changes or discussion? Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Hamer.
Yes.
Mr. Scholes.
Yes.
Mr. Smolik.
Yes.
Ms. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes.
Ms. Grazia.
Yes.
Thank you. On to the minutes of the August 19th, 2024 council meeting. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Muscatella?
Was that Sue or Joe?
It was Eric and me.
Okay.
Eric Ziegler and Sue.
Mr. Hamer.
Yes.
Mr. Scholes.
Yes.
Mr. Smolik.
Okay, sorry. I need to redo that one. I got the old sheet here. That was actually for the minutes. Make a correction. That was the minutes of September 4th, 2024. I had the previous agenda on that one that was sent earlier. So it's actually the minutes in the of September 4th, 2024 council meeting. I had read off minutes of August 19th, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you had the
So
old,
just a correction, he read
Yeah.
off the wrong,
wrong date.
so I'm giving him my agenda now, so he has the right date.
Okay, just noticed it was a Wednesday too.
You're good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, motion to approve that.
Motion to approve.
A second?
Mr. Ziegler, Sue for the second. Thank you. Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Hamer.
Yes.
Mr. Scholes.
Yes.
Mr. Smolik.
Yes.
Ms. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes,
Ms. Grazia.
Yes.
Okay, on to department reports. Captain Pagani? Any questions for the captain? Thank you. Chief McAllister?
Thank you, Council President Smolik. Not much tonight. Just want to thank the Service Department and Jim Gibbs for their help. Tomorrow we'll be rolling out the Motorola in-car and body camera program. They'll be on site to start installing all the computer-based equipment and cloud-based services. So that'll be a 3-day event here at the police department. So once we have that up and running, I will complete our training for administrators and train the trainer. That way we can get the department trained on how to use the equipment. And then we'll be able to roll the program out. Also just completed our 5-page policy on our in-car cameras today. So we've been busy getting ready for this, but I think we're ready to hit the ground running with it. That'll complete my report. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief?
no questions, but again, thank you. Appreciate the focus on that, thanks.
Chief, could you please share the policy with all of council?
That's
Just in an email. I mean, I'm not expecting you to.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
going to give you a very
Yeah.
brief
No,
summary,
no.
but I can absolutely share the policies. I'll
Okay.
send that out to everybody.
Thank you.
And Chief, a similar system to what you were used to previously with Highland then, or was it the same system or a little different?
It's a little different. It was WatchGuard when I was in Highland Heights. Motorola has since bought that
Okay.
company and kind of incorporated some of their technology into it. So basically, just learning their nuances and being able to roll it out. But everything is very similar. I think it'll be an easy integration.
Just curious, do you know, is Willoughby, our neighbors, using the same system by chance, Willoughby Manor, or?
I'm not sure. It's Motorola or Axon. So
Okay.
those seem to be the two
No biggie.
players.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chief. Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief. Mr. Courtney?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. No formal report tonight. However, I will update you. The road program started today in the Parkwood neighborhood. Old Town should be just about paved out. and no updates on the bridge projects. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Courtney?
Now, you can't get away with no updates on the bridge projects, because you know which bridge I already know has been delayed, so what?
Right, we know 306 bridge is delayed, and the Booth Road Bridge is underway.
Okay, on the 306 bridge that's delayed, did they give you a guesstimate of how long it's delayed, or is that still open for discussion?
Last I heard was 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Okay.
Yes.
We knew this.
And unfortunately, that's not something the city could do a whole lot about because that's
It is not. It is.
not our project, correct?
That project's a slave to the
And what pushes it to late?
logistics of getting the steel to the bridge.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
that's really the pressing question, is what is the reason for the delays?
Getting the steel beams to the bridge. Last I heard, they do not have a date for delivery yet.
issue? Is the sourcing issue or is it a delivery issue?
Sourcing.
Like, do they have the
Well,
beams?
the source would be a known source. It's that source getting the
They don't have
beams manufactured and delivered to the bridge. They haven't provided a date yet for that.
And 6 weeks puts us into December,
That's correct.
which will be super fun for them to finish in December. Okay.
I've got a machine shop with some steel. I think I could jimmy rig something for you guys possibly, so. Any other questions for Mr. Courtney?
No questions, but Mayor, that's kind of a recurring theme question that we're all getting, at least off and on. Is there anything we can post on the website to let people know that there has been a delay and that it's been confirmed, estimated completion is December? Can we do that? Okay, thank you. No, yeah, I mean, anything that we can just get out to the community, because that is a recurring question, is when's the bridge going to be done? And it's delayed, it is what it is, but
And it seems like a lot of people that I kind of know seem to know it ain't going to be done on time, even before we kind of knew. They're people who follow construction are like, hey, ain't get it done. So, any other questions, Mr.
The
Courtney?
information I provided is about a week and a half old.
Okay.
Maybe things have changed over a week and a half.
okay.
Thank you much, Doug.
The paving that's taking place on Elm and Joseph is tomorrow. Is it completed as of tomorrow as well, and then we are all done?
Once the paving is completed, then they'll have to do the lawn restorations and those kind of things.
Okay, but for purposes of like traffic and any more water main breaks, we should be good to go.
I can't speak to water main breaks.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug. Any other questions for Mr. Courtney? Mr. Slapnicker.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. Just a couple quick updates. We still have our audit is ongoing. We're getting closer, but still no end date on that. I did meet with the department heads last week in regards to our capital budget hearings, getting ready for 2025. So I did distribute some 2 pieces of paper to council for their review. The wastewater treatment plant letters regarding the Public Utilities Commission meeting did go out last week to all the residents that live within that jurisdiction. And one piece of legislation that we have on the agenda tonight is 24-R-71, and that is to accept the rates for our property tax revenue. I am requesting that be passed this evening so that we can get it over to the county well within the deadline. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Louis. Any question for Mr. Slapnicker? I think some of the letters, that's actually one of the reasons we're running a little late. I had a few residents stop me, about the letters, kind of discuss it with them about the meetings and stuff. I guess the question pertaining to that utilities meeting, once we have kind of numbers down, obviously not everybody from all the neighbors will probably make it, so we will send out probably some sort of mailer with possible rate, changes, or I don't know how we're going to go about that with setting out a packet for information for the residents.
I mean, we can certainly do that if council
facts.
so wishes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Do you mean after the meeting?
Yeah, like a
follow-up?
follow-up, even if it's it's not so much once we have more information or, kind of get numbers down, what the increases, if there are increases, what those increases will be. mailed out kind of ahead of time before it's official almost type of thing.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Like-
That makes sense.
Okay. I mean, obviously I'll talk to most everybody in my neighborhood, but I don't get over on
But
Hickory.
there would have to be a second meeting to even certify those,
Okay.
to even come up with those
That's
rates
true.
and make those rates, certify and vote on those rates, I believe
Okay.
is how it would work. So they would,
Okay, that works. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Slapmaker? On to yourself, Mr. Moore.
No formal report from the legal department. The law director did tell me to state nothing new has been adjudicated since the last meeting.
Okay. Thank you much. Any questions? Ms. Eri, Community Senior Center.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. Today we had kicked off, I had spoken briefly in the past about a grief support group and a grant we received for that. Our first 6-week session kicked off today. We will do one in the fall as well as one in the spring. That program will continue into the foreseeable future. So we're definitely excited about that and appreciative to all who have worked so hard since the spring to put that on. I do have a few dates for everybody of things that are coming up community-wise. So on October 2nd, Wednesday, October 2nd, Officer DeWolf and the police department will be hosting National Coffee with a Cop Day at the community center for anybody in the community that wants to come between 9 and 10:30. So we're excited to host them on that Wednesday. We also, just as a reminder, Shred Day, if residents ask, which they have been, will be at the community center on Saturday, the 12th from 8:30 to 11 o'clock. And the last new date that I have for everybody is Mr. Fernaro will be doing a presentation on snow and ice at the community center, which is open to the public on Monday, the 28th of October, so 11 o'clock on the 28th. So that's for anyone interested in learning more about the city's processes and procedures for snow and ice. I am open to any questions.
What time is the shred day again?
8:30 to 11.
Thank you, Teresa. Any questions for Ms. Eri? Thank you much.
Thank you.
Mayor Potter.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. I don't have a formal report, but I did make two promises, one to Mr. Ziegler that I would be short, and the other to Miss Teresa Zeri, and she made me promise I would wish her happy birthday on camera here. So, happy birthday, Teresa.
Happy birthday, Teresa.
Happy birthday.
I got cold feet. So I am open to any, for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor Potter. Okay, on to standing committee reports. Any current I don't think we have any. Well, we're supposed to have one. Yeah, well, okay, special committee reports. That'll be the utilities. Okay. Hey, was that again 20? Oh, sorry, wrong month. There we go. And we did decide on the 10 o'clock. Okay, so there'll be a Scott, what was it called again? Utilities commission meeting pertaining to fees, rate on the septic, on the various, God bless it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Okay, and that letter did go out, like you said, so I started seeing those today. Anything else on that, Mr. Raymer? Okay. On to correspondence. I don't think I saw any correspondence, Ms. Muscatello. On to public comments on matters not on the agenda. Will you open up the floor to the public? Right ahead, sir. State your name and address, please.
Sterling Coleman, 7636 Markel Road. I am asking if there are any reports in Kirtland of Kirtlanders eating cats.
I believe Mr. Fenstermaker gave me a call the other day. He wasn't. He was a little concerned about it. No.
There's been no reports
No
of anybody
reports.
eating cats. Thank you.
I fed a couple cats, didn't eat them. So, any other comments from the public? Yeah, right ahead. Just state your name. Come on up to the mic. State your name and address, please.
My name is Michelle Van Arnhem. I'm from 10284 Christina Drive. I'm here to speak, again, as an extremely concerned parent tried to stay out of the situation, but it has gotten to the point of alarming, to say the least. Still deeply concerned for my son, Reese, and talking about the infamous fence at 7955 Euclid Chardon Road. It is the only 8-foot fence that has been ordered to be put up on commercial industrial zone property in the city of Kirtland within at least the last 5 years, including the gas station's fence that is about 10 feet away from the swing set on the Kirtland Elementary School's playground. This fence is also the fence that my son himself had to auger through layers of asphalt that once was a parking lot for semis for a plastics company to install the fence posts for, which is on the same property that when the neighbors purchased their home next to was and still remains on commercial industrial zone property. The threats, slander, harassment, lies, intimidation tactics, and amount of time spent on where my son works, his job sites, pictures of his equipment and vehicles being taken unknowingly to him, along with questioning his credentials, his insurance information, the defamation, and everything else that has been done to intimidate and impede a 21-year-old young man from simply trying to work and run a legitimate tax-paying landscaping business in Kirtland for over the last 2 years is beyond alarming behavior for any parent. We have no idea as to what could have possibly warranted this ugly behavior towards him, especially from another parent. But for whatever the reason, I find the targeted obsession with my 21-year-old son for over the past 2 years disturbing, to say the least. The false accusations of preferred treatment, nepotism, are also preposterous and insulting. He has had anything but that. My son has worked his behind off for the last 7 years, earning every single positive client review, testimony, and other accolades through nothing but self-motivation and extremely hard work. He has complied with everything the city has asked of him. And although he respectfully disagreed that installation of that fence should have been put up by anyone other than the people making the false complaints and accusations against him and his business on their own property, he purchased and installed the 8-foot privacy fence, costing several thousands of dollars and time himself on property that he does not even own, nor does Richards Maple. The actual owner of the property questioned why the fence wouldn't have been put up by the neighbors as well, but agreed to allowing Reese to put it up because he said the property never looked better and thanked Reese for all that he had done there. The fence became Reese's responsibility to put up when the neighbor made it all about him being there in the first place, the lessee. It literally was said at a public meeting by the neighbor that if Reese was no longer on the property, a fence would no longer need to be put up, making it 100% personal about Reese, even when he has every right to be at that property. Reese spoke to the Kirtland Zoning Commission last month about himself and his business and had several extremely satisfied Kirtland residents and customers attest to his work ethic and professionalism. As many of you know in this room, because he's done work for you or with you, as he has recommended your business to clients as well who were in need of your professional services. And again, I'm not here, again, with him to help defend his battles. He's been doing that himself for over the last 2 years. I'm simply here now, as any parent would be, to see that the ugly, out-of-control behavior ceases. Enough is enough. We also wanted to give council some background to the situation, as we know you've been sent several emails demanding action from you for a more costly and appealing fence to be installed, or for my son's business to be removed from the property. Can you even imagine, believe the audacity? If I may suggest, maybe a fence could be put up on their property behind their large barn, shed, finished home office building, whatever it is, in front of the heavily wooded area on their own property, next to their house, to block their view of the fence they demanded be put up on industrial zoned property they do not own. The actual owner of the property agrees with this suggestion as well. As for my son Reese, as a business owner, young entrepreneur in the city of Kirtland, we are questioning the protection of him and his rights to you all. And as a resident of Kirtland, I question why someone has made it their intently obsessed mission to run out a tax-paying business in our city. It is hard to find strong enough words to even describe how reprehensible this ugly behavior from these people really has been, again, for over 2 years. And one more thing. In the future, when considering this whole situation, please recognize where within the true ugliness really lies. It's in the behavior, not the fence. Thank you for your time and service to our city. We appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Van Arnhem. I just, for the record, I just wanted to clarify, myself and a couple of the other people are pretty familiar with the proceedings, but what you stated on it, was that any of that pertaining to the city?
Yes.
But by way of the ugly, all the stuff at the beginning and stuff, you know,
Well, I know that
the lying, the nepotism, that kind of, you know.
I know that you've all received, I did a public records request that you all have received those lies that are not true to the city.
But I guess my question was, are you saying the city lied? So to speak? Oh, okay, that's just what I
No,
wanted to
absolutely not. I'm saying that
clarify
I'm
that you're
aware,
speaking of the person you're having the contentious.
and I'm aware
Okay.
of all of the emails.
Wanted
you've
that clarified. I knew where you're coming from, but not
Yeah.
everybody on council
Yes.
or the public's aware of that. So
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much for clarifying.
Thank you, Ms. Van Arnhem. Name and address, please, Reese.
Maurice Van Arnhem, 10284 Christina Drive, and I'm the owner of A Plus Landscaping. I'm here again to shed some light on the situation regarding my business, running out of Richards Maple Country Meats. I've lived in Kirtland for the past 11 years. I started my landscaping business when I was 14 years old, just mowing grass around my neighborhood and scaling my business when I was in school. And now at the age of 21, I've grown my business to which has generated a good amount of tax dollars for the city of Kirtland. My career goal has been and continues to be to buy my own property to run my business out of in Kirtland. As I said, I started my business at home and had my equipment on my own property. But over 2 years ago, I'd been informed by the zoning inspector, Rick LeConte at the time, that I had moved my equipment since I was running my business originally out of a residentially zoned area. And Rick helped me, and I found a properly zoned area to park my trucks at. So I reached out to one of my clients, Richards Maple, to see if I could use their parking lot and the detached building. Fred and Jen were super kind and supportive of helping me at the time with big plans ahead of me, and agreed to this. As some of you know firsthand, they are more than willing to help anyone out in the community. I checked with Mr. LeConte to make sure it was zoned appropriately. He said yes. That was the only involvement with the city and the location. I immediately reached out to the neighbor who I knew and gave my own personal number to them should they need it for any reason. But immediately complaints began to the city and obviously haven't stopped since from the neighbor. In fact, throughout the entire time I've been located there, I have had my vehicles parked there, which is a former parking lot there were semis everywhere in this parking lot back before even Enduro was there, where I parked my trucks at now. And it's all nice and clean and orderly. Probably most of you don't even know I'm back there, so. And I've also cleaned up the property. The property owner has stated that the property's never looked better. I've completely transformed the exterior of the property. If you drive past it, it's always maintained to perfection. We've planted trees and flowers and shrubs in there just to clean it up for everyone. So I've been compliant with the city's requests over the past 2 years. Even if I respectfully disagree about the fence, I had immediately taken on the responsibility to put up the fence after the zoning commission ruled it to be put up, as it only pertained to me to stay there or not. This happened in the winter, so I couldn't start on it at the time. Then in the early spring, I reached out initially and was told by Mr. LeConte that it just had to be 8 feet high and offer privacy, and that was it. Mr. LaConte was no longer in that position, so there was little to no guidance when I reached out several times to the city pertaining to the fence situation. I then submitted the exact pictures and specs of the fencing, which I planned to purchase upon the approval from the city, and I began installation of the work, which was later suspended for over 6 weeks for reasons, and then I worked to finish it to meet the new deadline that I was given, and I met the deadline, had it up prior. I picked out that fencing, and it cost me thousands of dollars, as well as time away from projects. And I specifically met the specs and the requirements that I was given, which addresses the privacy and blockage of light. To the few times that I do plow the parking lot, which it is commercial, so we do have to plow during, early morning hours. As well as there have been complaints of dust and odor, which were caused from literally just cutting the grass, using a lawnmower, uses gasoline. So I was extremely hopeful that after the fence was put up, the complaints would stop, but it only seems to have progressed further into harassment. I thank you all for your time, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Any question for Mr. Van Arnam? Thank you, Reese.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Reese,
Reese.
I appreciate you taking the time, coming up here and meeting with us and discussing it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments on agenda items of, we're still on public comments on matters not on the agenda, sorry. Anybody else? Not at this time? Okay, on to old business. This time, public comments on agenda items of old business. We have comments on the old business? With that, we go to ordinance number 24. These will all be second readings. Ordinance number 24-0-44, second reading. Ordinance amending sections 254.02 of the codified ordinances of the city of Kirtland relating to holidays and declaring an emergency. Any discussion on that? On to ordinance number 24-0-65, second reading, and ordinance amending section 254.03 of the codified ordinances of the city of Kirtland relating to vacation pay and declaring an emergency. Any discussion on that? To ordinance number.
I got something.
Sorry, go
Council
ahead.
President. Louis, you had discussed this really briefly last meeting, and kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the section E, in particular providing compensation for vacation time for part-time employees. At that time, I think you had stated it's just going to cover 2 employees. What department are those employees on, or who are those employees?
One is in the community center and one is in the zoning office.
Okay. And then it will not be for any police, fire, no bargaining unit.
No, that is correct at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I would like to amend that legislation to remove section E. I don't find it warranted to carve out that type of benefit for a part-time employee where it doesn't, how do I say, it's not the who, it's the why, and justifying it to the taxpayers as to making a change only for 2 people across the city that are part-time. Okay.
And
typically on part-time employee, when you want to retain a part-time employee, we would up the pay. We did that for the part-time firefighters. We had an issue with that regard, and we tackled it in that manner. I think doing so, I did a little bit of homework relative to some other communities around us, and I could not find anyone except Willoughby Hills that did it for AFSCME employees, which is a union position. So all the Wickliffe, Willowick, and Richmond Heights did not provide that benefit. And I'm trying to just understand, if we want to maintain and retain, it's typically a pay issue, not a vacation or a sick time issue for an employee.
So there is no out-of-pocket expense exactly. What I would say is, instead of working 40 hours and dropping that down to 30 hours, that's times 52 weeks, that's 520 hours. So having the ability to, and flexibility of somebody that's willing to work for 30 hours versus 40 hours, save those 520 hours, and then, to earn that vacation time commensurate with, or prorated, I should say, as compared to other employees. To me, it's that great flexibility that the employee is willing to offer helps the city out on the flip side, on the payroll side. So I would request the council does not amend this legislation and keeps it in and moves forward with it. My request. We have two pretty dedicated employees that this would affect at this time. And I'm appreciative of their willingness to work less hours to save the city money in the big picture.
I would
and do the job very well, by the way.
I would concur with that. For those two part-time employees, I guess the mayor can hire them on full-time and pay them full benefits possibly, right? If you wanted to, mayor could theoretically hire them full-time and pay them full benefits. So to your point about the savings, only working, 30 hours a week, correct?
Yeah, man, I think that's obvious.
Yeah. I concur with, the mayor and not eliminating that, Matt. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks. It's a pretty brutal, I own a small business, so I'm not looking to, just pay anybody just any little thing, but you got to take care of employees.
Council President Smolik,
retain employees.
I would say this, in fairness to Councilman Schultz, I see where he's coming from. Council's going to act how council's going to act on this particular issue. But it is a responsible question, and it's a responsible offer, even from your part and your perspective, to this council. So I probably should have said that to begin with versus just tell you why I disagree.
Well, I understand that, Mayor. I'm just looking at a point of equity between our part-time firefighters and police will not receive this. Now we have this carve-out, right? And I just thought it would be, if they need more money, they need more money. I don't know the reason these people choose to work part-time, but typically there's a benefit to the employee and there's a benefit to the employer, right? And vice versa. Mayor, what is the impetus to offer this? Did they say, I want this as a condition of my employment? Otherwise I'm leaving because some other community's offering this? Because I'm not finding other communities offering this. So it's odd to me that would be a benefit that would retain or attract quality employees to pay. And it is, you mentioned it's a non-cash transaction. That's correct until they decide to depart the city, then there will be a cash payout. So there is a liability that would be on the books, at least for that 1 year of accrued vacation as well.
Is a Kelly Day considered a carve out? Because they're the only ones that I'm aware of that get that. When we talk about making a special arrangement, isn't a Kelly Day for the fire department a special arrangement? So like we're doing that already, so it's not.
That's for full-time firefighters and full-time police officers. We're speaking part-time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're correct on that. You don't get Kelly days for part-time.
So, here's my feedback on this is you already said it as of now. So what's going to happen is when we pass this for the part-timers here, both chiefs respectfully, next bargaining unit, are going to be coming to us and saying, hey, guys, you're already doing this for the part-timers that are not within the police and fire. We want the same thing for our part-timers. So we'll be opening this up in the near future, the next bargaining agreement, wherever that is, 2 years away, 3 years away. But it's going to come up.
The part-timers don't fall into the bargaining unit, though.
Okay. Well, it doesn't mean that they're not going to ask for some type of same considerations for them. If we're going to give it to the administrative side, I'll call it, right? Then police and fire are going to say the same thing of, well, you're giving it on this side, it'll help us bring in part-timers as needed if we have that availability for the police department and fire department also. So I just want to be careful. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that, I hate to use the word precedent, but we're opening it up. We're setting that precedent, and we're going to get it from the other departments coming down the road. Service department would be lining up also. Every department that's not in this program right now would be lining up for it.
Don't disagree with that. What is our full-time on service? And
I don't, Louis, if you could, I think Mr.
per the part-time, for Mr. Fenstermaker's and Mr. Schultz's comments, how many part-timers do we have in service? Obviously, we know we rely on part-time
There's
fire.
one part-time individual that would not meet anywhere near the 30 hours a week.
Okay. And again, is that specified to a certain hour? It's got to fall between a certain hours then? That caveat from that 260, or sorry.
It's 30 hours per week.
Okay.
Which also, by the way, according to the rules of the ACA, makes an employee eligible for health care as well. And both of these cases, these employees aren't requesting health care.
They are or are not?
Are not.
So did they request vacation and sick time?
No, it was actually through discussions with myself and Lewis and Mr. Lallo that it came about.
Giving a benefit that wasn't requested.
Because I think we're trying to be competitive and.
In this
To be
labor
competitive, you
market,
have
we
to-
want to retain our good people and not lose them and have to retrain individuals. There's going to be lost dollars by additional training and things like that. So it's a proactive approach in this job market, to offer these incentives that really there is no increase in budget. There's no additional costs in that regard to taxpayers. So yes, it's a proactive approach to retain good people.
It also seems a little bit like we're comparing apples and oranges when we talk about the police and fire as part of this, because it's my understanding from what Chief Hutton explained to me last time with Mr. Samth, that he was part-time for X number of years in order to have the opportunity to go full-time. So it's almost like it seems like with police and fire, often those people are agreeing to part-time with the opportunity to go to full-time. And it doesn't seem like that's the case with most of the administrative. It's part-time because it's beneficial to both the city and the individual. And there isn't necessarily that kind of carrot, if you will, of wanting to go or that there ever would be a full-time position available to them. So I just want to make that differentiation because I do think that we're sort of comparing apples to oranges with trying to take what's happening in the fire department or the police department and say the same thing would happen back and forth between administration and.
I don't think I'm comparing apples and oranges respectfully. I'm saying that what we're putting in there is going to open it up for anybody within the city that works part-time. And I'm not against it. 30 hours to me is pretty close to full-time anymore. I have employees, if they work 32, they're considered full-time. So, I'm not against it. I'm just saying that if we're going to do it, we just need to understand that for me, from my perspective, it should be across the board because the other departments are going to be requesting the same thing. So if we're going to sit there and say that we're going to do it, then I think we should be looking at it for all departments, not just specific. Okay? So that's why I'm saying it's not apples and oranges to me. I recognize that part-timers are not part of the bargaining unit, but the bargaining unit also discusses opportunities for their team members. Even if they're part-time, they would speak up for that, I would assume. Maybe not.
They're not.
I know, but they may. I said maybe not. But the bottom line, they're part-time.
But to Julie's point, there is generally consensus in the fire department. You get in a part-time, that's kind of your penance to do, whatever it takes, 1, 2, 5 years to get on a full-time. There's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, by getting full-time on somebody.
Well, they're part-time here today.
And-
They're full-time elsewhere and they're part-time here. I mean,
And ask you for the fire department, like 25% of them are former Kirtland firemen, so.
right, and we solved that by raising the pay on the part-timers when we had a part-time issue of not being able to keep people, and we were spending a significant amount of money on overtime to ensure staffing, so.
Unfortunately, Willoughby and various cities also raised theirs approximately the same, so. I don't know where, Mr. Hamer, Mr. Ziegler, Ms. Grazia, any comments or thoughts?
Some employees might value time off more so than money, so like, to me, it's a wash. Like, I feel like you're speaking for the employees. But I'd gladly take a week off.
So I guess the question right now is, anybody concur with Councilman Schultz on eliminating Section E or amending? Is that what was it, Section E?
Right, it was an amendment to remove, so you need a second to,
Need a second, and then we do a roll, yes, be amending the ordinance to remove section 8.
Okay, so we would do an amendment to remove, and then we would need a vote on that then, correct?
We need a motion
we
and
need
a
a
second.
second. If you don't have a second, it just dies.
Okay,
If there's no second, then it dies.
so you're making that motion then?
Yeah, I made that.
Anybody second, Mr. Schultz? Remember, you get to vote yes or no, even if you give it a vote, correct? Anyone? I'll second for Mr. Schultz. If nobody else on council will. Can I do that being council president? Okay. Okay, so that is an amendment to change, to remove Section E from 24-0-65. Sorry, from section, well, that's the ordinance, 254.03.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, are we do a vote on that?
Yes, we do a vote with a second roll call.
And to that, Mr. Morong, a no vote will mean you're voting no, you don't want it amended.
Correct, a no vote, the ordinance will read the same, the section will read the same.
Okay. Everyone understand that then? Yes, confirms it, Mr. Councilman Schultz? Ms. Muscatello?
Mr. Hamer,
No.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes,
Mr. Smolik,
No.
Ms. Simons,
No.
Mr. Ziegler, Mr. Fenstermaker,
No.
Ms. Grazia.
No.
Okay, then the ordinance 24-0-65 will go on to a third reading as currently stated, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
let me ask you this. Part of my issue is I won't be here for that October 7th meeting, so it's entirely up to council. But if I make a motion to table it and then take it off the table, so I would be able to vote on October 21st. But again, that's entirely up to council. As I mentioned in the work session, that police and fire meeting I will not be able to make on October 7th. So I'd like an opportunity to be able to vote on this. But I would,
So you basically,
if I made a motion to table, Mr. Morong, it would go through the same process, and if they chose to not table it, it would go to a third reading on the 7th.
we'd have to take it off the table at the next meeting, bring it back on. And I take it you want to table it, so then you can vote on it, and obviously, probably no vote on taking it, correct? Okay.
I would like to be here at that vote. I'm not going to say I'm going to vote, but
Or we can note that, I don't know if we can put a note, or I can note publicly that you were against it, and you would vote no? I mean,
Well, his motion to amend or remove that section and then his affirmative vote to carry that forward, I think is all the record you need.
Yeah, and, yeah, I think that'd be correct, Mayor. It's going to be, everybody voted to be 6-1. Right now, I'd imagine it would be 6-1, whether you're here or not, or 6-0 next week.
Council President, I think he's asking if he wants to put a motion.
Oh, I know what he wants to do, but do we want to table it, though?
here, I'll just do it. I'd like to make a motion to table 24-065.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Ziegler seconds it? And a no vote, obviously, right here would be a motion not to table it, correct?
Correct, it would move 10-7, it would be on for third reading.
Okay. Ms. Muscatello?
Mr. Hamer,
No.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
No.
Ms. Simons,
No.
Mr. Ziegler, Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
No.
Was that 4-3?
Yeah, 4 no's. So this is on second reading. It will remain on the agenda. It will be for third reading on 10/7.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, and again, I already read that one, so I don't need to repeat that then for the second reading? Or do I need to go through the ordinance? Or, okay, I'll do it. Ordinance number 24-0-65, second reading, and ordinance amending section 254.03 of the codified ordinances of the city of Kirtland relating to vacation pay and declaring emergency. That will move on to a third reading at the next meeting.
Right.
Okay. On to ordinance number 24-0-66, second reading. An ordinance amending section 264.06 of the codified ordinances of the city of Kirtland relating,
250.
did I say 250?
Two says 270.
Oh, sorry. Now I've got to blow this up a bit. Oh, correct. Section 254.06 of the codified ordinances of the city of Kirtland relating to the sick leave and declaring an emergency. That'll go on to a third reading.
I also would like to say some things on this, whether I choose to amend or table. I would like to share a couple things that I think that if it does move forward, that it would could be a much better piece of legislation. And doing some homework relative to our peer group that we had mentioned in the past for when we look at benefits and things of that nature. You know, we're if you picked it up, we're changing the amount of payout hours from 240 to 480 hours. And we have no idea what the current and long-term liabilities of that are. It seems to me that it should maybe have some language surrounding the acceptance of another municipality or county or state acceptance of sick time. Since we're changing that it wouldn't be able to be paid out upon retirement, that it could be used in a form of a new sick and old sick type of an account, where as a current employee, you receive new sick, old sick would be transferred in. So an employee doesn't bring 1,000 hours with them, 3 years later, they retire, and then they're cashing out money that we may not have, right? Because it's a liability now on our books. Let's see. And I guess not really having an understanding of, the biggest thing is the liabilities to the city relative to our employees. This change in the total payout is a lot, and we don't know that number yet, as of yet. And again, providing sick time for part-time employees, I'm not in favor.
So what kind of change would you be proposing, Councilman Schultz?
Well,
Or did you need
I'm
some
thinking
information?
if it was tabled, the law department can look at other cities' ordinances to tidy this one up, so we're not at risk of paying liabilities from some transferred in sick time that we may not have the money. Career public employees tend to have pretty good attendance and can accrue thousands of hours of sick time. Right? When you get a healthy, generous, I would say, working in public employment myself, you have a very good work-life balance. So what's that mean? You have a nice vacation schedule. You have an abundance of holidays. So in terms of taking sick time, it's not something that's typically used in excess. So employees tend to accrue a significant amount of sick time, and then that can be used towards, I don't know our city's policy on long-term or short-term disability, and if those sick hours can be used and vice versa to help fill the gaps on the pay cut that typically short-term or long-term people in short-term disability or long-term disability situations find themselves. So my main point of discussion is for council to understand the liabilities, to know what those are, and to perhaps tidy up the legislation so we don't find ourselves in a situation where we're paying out a large liability where that employee wasn't a long-term employee. I hope I came across correctly there.
I guess I'll ask Mr. Slapnecker on.
Councilman Schultz, is the objection or the concern more over the carrying over from another place of employment, or is it the raising of the sick hours eligible at the time of retirement?
You could say it's all of that, right? What do our peers pay out, right? And Lewis mentioned a proactive approach. That word wasn't used before. It was to attract or maintain. So if we're being proactive, then I could see a benefit enhancement to do so. But if we had a guide, a chart, a table that said, this city does this, blah, blah, boom, then we know if we're in the wheelhouse relative to a benefit that's attractive to an employee. That benefit, in my opinion, is attractive to a retiring employee. It's not attractive to a person who's been in city government for 3 years or 5 years. They're not going to be cashing out any sick time upon retirement until they reach 32 years of active service in OPRS or Ohio Police and Fire. I don't know the time limits there. So a comparison chart of benefits would go a long way into helping us understand if we're competitive, helping us understand what those liabilities are, because we have to have that money encumbered, set aside, whatever you would like to call it. We don't know with just our current, what do we have, 57 full-time employees? We don't know what that changes, doubling that amount, what that net effect on our books is. So.
Well, just real quick to clarify on this as well. So our current CBAs read with the 480 hours and the 1/3. So this is bringing that up to parity with our CBAs. And again, and how, speaking of the liability, I can definitely I already did take a look at the numbers, so I can provide something to council as well. But don't forget, this would only apply to individuals that are not covered under CBAs currently, because right now the CBAs do read with 480 hours. So this is really kind of bringing this up to parity with the people that don't fall under a CBA. And then speaking in regards to comparisons, I absolutely can do that as far as other cities and give you guys a comparison chart for all of this. That's not a problem.
I would also say that upon entering this office, this mayor's office, we had some non-collective bargaining, non-police fire approaching retirement, and I took some heat for not internally for not paying out the 480 hours. Apparently it had been some sort of past practice that was going against our ordinances, and I took heat with those employees, and my word to the rest of the employees was that someday when we feel as though our finances are in order and we have the right people in place, something we can take a look at again. So when Mr. Lallo and Mr. Slapnecker brought that up to me just a couple months ago or a month ago, whenever this was, I said, yeah, I told those people that we would try to get them in line on paper, on the books, by the books, the letter of the law, again, in line with the police and fire that are already getting the 480 hours. So that's really where this comes from. The sick time transfer piece that's new, right?
Yes, and real quick too, as far as sick time coming over, if an individual were to come over with sick time, we would draw down that sick time first if they were to take sick time. Okay, so we would have basically a pay code that says sick prior service. So when someone were to take sick time, we would draw from that bank first, so that at the time of retirement or payout, likely that they've drawn down a lot of that. Not necessarily, not all the time, but by us drawing that down first, that's taking down that prior service that was carried over.
Mayor, I do appreciate you. I do remember that. That was probably 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago, and that's really good that that's bringing it to parity. And I thank you for that. I did not know that. But nonetheless, I'm still not for part-time employees to get sick time. Period.
So why don't I get council a comparison sheet sometime this week for you guys, so you guys can take a look at this, at least definitely before the next reading of this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lois.
Councilman Schultz, would that be, okay with it? Do you want this one tabled so that you could look it over and vote on it? Or the
I think
following-
I made myself pretty clear.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need to take any more time.
Since we need, data on that one, or waiting for it, if you do want to table that one?
No, I'll take a
Okay.
look at the data and provide feedback.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, that will go on to a third reading then. Thank you, Councilman Schultz. Okay, that's it for old business. We're on to new business. Any public comment on agenda items of new business this time? None? Okay, on to ordinance number 24-R-71, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. I believe we wanted that readings waived on this one.
Yes, it needs to be back to the county before October 1st.
Okay. Any discussion on this one before?
Lewis, as you know, Lewis and I had a phone call Friday, I think. And Lewis, if you want to discuss a little bit about my ask relative to the county reevaluations and why you might find that difficult to produce.
Yeah, absolutely. So Councilman Schultz had asked me to prepare something. So, right, we have the sexennial reappraisal. So there's definitely different fluctuations in your market values and your appraised values, right? So Councilman Schultz asked me to prepare something so that a resident could see, just how much potentially that their property taxes are going to go up. So when I was working through this, we were able to kind of get to a point where the county does not know the rates for next year. And they will not provide their formula, right? Because it's set by the state, okay? So that kind of was a dead end, if you will, on that request. But what we did talk about on our conversation on Friday was the difference between inside and outside millage, okay? So the city has several voted levies. So fire emergency, police protection, those sorts of things. So when those were originally passed, those are really for about a set dollar amount, okay? So when you have these revaluations and your property taxes increase, there's something, it's House Bill 920, right? So if your market values were to increase significantly, the city's not going to, or I shouldn't say the city, but your taxes are not going to go up on those, on the outside millage. Okay, because those are fixed dollar amounts that the city receives, okay? What will change on your property tax is the inside millage. That does go with market values. So we have two inside millages. One is for the general fund, which is 2.7 mils, and then we have a second, which is 0.3 mils for our police pension fund. So just in summary, the city has 11.05 mils that is taxed on a single property, okay? Of that, 3 mils is inside millage. So that's what the brunt is going to take with the increase in the market values. Okay, so 3 out of the 11.05 mils that we have for property taxes, you're going to see fluctuations with that, not with the other 8.05 outside millage. Okay.
I think people glossed over, but Lewis, can you give us the approximate increase to the general fund and to the police and pension fund, if you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, so, just to kind of, while I pull this up as well, I have to remote into this desktop. But basically, this is a result from the tax budget that we prepare in July, and we send this off to the county, and the county reviews it, and then they send this back to us, and we have to certify those rates, right? They're certifying the dollar amount that we're going to receive in property taxes. Off the top of my head, I believe it was around $200,000. I know we discussed that on that Friday phone conference. I believe it's a little over $200,000 in the general fund citywide, okay? That's based on a 20% increase in market values.
Was it, did the county say 20 or 27?
The county came in around 25%. Yeah. So, but we always budget conservatively. And again, without the rates being set, we don't know for sure. So a 20% is a conservative estimate. So once the state sets those rates, so when you actually look at the rates that you're certifying here tonight, and you look at last year's, they're almost identical. They're really close within each other, right? But we know once the state sets those rates and they come back to the county, those dollars are going to actually increase.
So 200,000 was what you estimated the increase?
The approximate. And I apologize because I can't remote into the desktop right now to get you the exact dollar amount, but what I can do is I can send council that information. But I believe off the top of my head, it was a little over $200,000.
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate. As Lewis stated, they won't share the formula, so he did some sleuthing and back calculating because
I was trying to
accountant and came up with what he felt was a decent number. But I said, okay, just mention it because we don't know for certain, so we don't want to get bad information.
Is that about what you, just curious, I know you're really good with all this stuff, Matt. Did you did it come out about what you thought it was going to be approximately, or a little higher, lower?
I was doing it on a much larger scale and not just relative to the general fund.
Oh, okay, the 3.0.
Yeah, because you can't take a 20% right across the board because, again, between that inside and outside millage, because the outside millage, it's not going to change, right? It's only going to be on the inside millage, which is 3 mills in total. So it's difficult to take it across the board. You really have to drill down into those sort of things. Not to mention, the county has special levies as well. They also have inside and outside millage. So, it becomes really, really complicated at that point.
So there won't be a worksheet helping to explain an approximate change in taxes relative to the appropriate change in your valuation. We're not going to have a constituent call to say, how much are my taxes going up? We're going to say, we don't know now because the county has not received the certified information back from the state. We won't know this till the first of the year, somewhere around at the end of the year, the first of the year, and it's unfortunate because.
Thank you, Councilman Schultz. Actually, just curious, mine went, I was up 39% on my appraisal. Just anybody else wanted to share what they were up on their Lake County appraisal? I was 39% up.
Or too much.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. I want to say ours was 35 or 40%.
I know my Euclid house was up 48%, I think, so.
All right, thank you.
Did you want any? You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So looking for a motion to waive the 3 readings on 24-R-71.
Motion to waive the three readings. Sorry, Eric. Second.
Who did the second?
You can give Eric the first and I'll do the second.
Okay. Eric
Eric had the motion? Okay. Any discussion? Questions? Mr. Muscatello?
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes.
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
We're looking for a motion to
Adopt.
adopt. No emergency, correct? Okay. Motion to adopt.
Second.
And that was,
Mr. Schultz.
okay, Julie, any discussion? Ms. Muscatello?
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes.
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Thank you. On to ordinance number 24-R-72, a resolution accepting the bid of Ohio Paving and Construction Company for its work on the repaving of the Kirtland Community Center parking lot and declaring an emergency. I believe they were doing the whole
Motion to waive
parking
the
lot.
3 readings.
Oh, go ahead,
Second.
sorry. Yeah.
A second.
Mr. Ziegler with the motion to waive the 3 readings, Sue with the second. On that, I believe Mr. Renaro said that's going to be the whole front parking lot except for the side, right? Correct, the right side on that?
Yep.
On the community center.
Driveway in the front, in the whole front parking lot, up to the front of the building.
Okay, now neither of the back sides are behind the front line are getting paved, or one side?
Correct.
Isn't? Oh, okay,
That's correct.
okay, thank you. Any discussion or questions? Ms. Muscatello?
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes.
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Okay, now we're looking for a motion to declare an emergency and to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Julie and Sue. Any discussion?
Council President.
Go right ahead.
One of the questions I have, Mr. Fenaro had to step out, so I didn't get a chance to ask the questions, but or perhaps this can go to you, Mr. Courtney. Was there consideration in, we had set aside $25,000 to do the police parking lot. Was there consideration or looking at the bid for that to bundle it with the community center paving, and/or was there consideration in selling it with the road paving program?
I don't think, I can answer that question. I don't think there was consideration of bundling. I think the ultimately the cost was about $4,000 for asphalt for the police parking lot. And it was done by the service department over the course of, I don't know, a handful of days, I think. So obviously there's some labor involved there.
Oh, I was thinking that paving, that it was $25,000 allotted on the capital was for the driveway.
I think originally there was discussion that maybe we would bid it out, and maybe even as part of the parking lot at the community center. Don't quote me on that, but I think that may have been the logic. But ultimately, they were able to repair the worst areas of the police parking lot, which was at $25,000 was originally set aside for. Instead, with a few $1,000s in asphalt, service department actually doing the work. So,
all right. So my understanding of the 25,000 is some different scope of work that was done. I was thinking it was this south driveway. It's rough.
I think I'm right about that. We'll double check with Mr. Fenaro, make sure I'm not missing something, but I believe that's what happened.
And if next meeting, Mayor, maybe you can speak to the remaining items on the 2024 capital budget that have yet to be completed. You can speak to what their completion is, or what the reasoning or the pivot in not moving forward with those items.
Of course, sure thing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Councilman Schultz. I believe we had for motion to declare an emergency adopt, I believe we had a motion by Julie and a second by Sue. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes.
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Thank you. On to council comments. Any council comments at this point? None? Any continuing concerns? Community or from council? Or? Thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good evening.